Hello viewers, I am Dr. Shibani Basu Dubey, Associate Professor, Department of English from the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. I am here today with my presentation of the second part of the poem Death Be Not Proud by Donne. You must have viewed my previous lecture as well. In that, I had initiated this poem and we had completed the first stanza of the poem. Today, I am going to take up the second and the last stanza of the poem, which actually concludes Donne's philosophy. So in the previous stanza, in the first stanza, as I did in the previous lecture, Donne has tried to give an ultimatum, give a warning to death not to be proud of himself. He is trying to minimize the role, importance, significance, fear and threat of death. And gradually, as in a metaphysical poem, by the way, this is a holy sonnet, and in a sonnet, the logic is substantiated at each step. So in the second stanza of the same poem, Death Be Not Proud, we see how Donne has substantiated his logic that death is just a sleep. It is nothing else. And the person who dies, he wakes up with a new life in unity with God. So he moves on in the second stanza. What does he say? Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings and desperate men. Now see how wonderfully he presents his logic. Now he says, thou, death, you are a slave. You are not a master as we think death to be. Death is just a slave. And there are four persons, four things, four items to which death does its slavery. And what are those items? Let me mark it for you. So he says one thing is fate, because people die because of their luck. Then it is chance. People also meet with death because of their destiny or by chance. It is by kings. Now in earlier days, the monarch of a country, he had the power to dispense the judgment of life and death to a person. So Donne here is correlating that king can give a death sentence. So thus death becomes a slave to kings. And then he also mentions about desperate men. Now who are these desperate men? Desperate men, he is again giving a reference from the Bible which forbids suicide. Desperate men are those people who commit suicides. So thus he says that death, you are a slave, you are caused by luck, destiny, sentence of the king and by desperate people who go and commit suicide. So see how beautifully he rationalizes it. We move on to the next line of the poem. Death is caused by poison. Death is caused by war which erupt and many people dies in that process, and people also die of sickness. Alright, so see, he says that people die because of poison, because of war and because of sickness. These are the three places, three ways in which death is caused. We move on to the next line. And poppy or charms can make us sleep as well. So he says in the first stanza, we had seen in the previous lecture that he is comparing death to a sound, beautiful, relaxing sleep. And after that sleep, you wake up to an eternal life. So that same idea he proceeds forth in the second stanza as well. And he says that the sleep, if we call death as a sleep, sleep is also caused by poppy seeds and charms. Now poppy seeds, these are the narcotics which many people tend to consume in order to soothe their tensed nerves. So poppy seeds, they also cause sleep. And charms, this is again a reference to superstition, that many people resort to black magic and things like that in order to fall asleep or cause sleep or bring sleep to themselves. So what does he say? That an poppy or charms can make us sleep as well. So it is not just death which has the power, which has the might, which has the control to make us fall asleep. There are substitute ways also under which you can fall asleep, and he quotes poppy seeds and charms. And better than thy stroke. And then he says that the sleep caused by a poppy seed or by charms are better than the stroke of sleep caused by death. Alright, so he is saying that poppy or charms can make us sleep as well, and better than thy stroke. And then see the question he puts forth, why swellest thou then? Why are you so full of pride of yourself? So see how he is trying to minimize the significance of death. He is asking a rhetorical question. Why swellest? Why do you swell in pride then? And you here is death. One short sleep past, and see the final logic which he gives. One short sleep past, death is a kind of short sleep. We wake eternally, and this is the same thing which has been repeated earlier, that death is just a short sleep. After that, we wake up to eternal life. Alright? One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. Now, these two sentence lines in this poem are full of meaning, full of philosophy. I would like you to pay attention to these last two lines of the poem, in which John Donne is stressing on the entire philosophy which he has for death, towards death. So what does he say? That one short sleep past, after the one short sleep, sleep equivalent to death, we wake up eternally, we wake up to a new life. And then when we are united with God, we won't be having or entering into that cycle of life, death and rebirth. We will be free from that cycle, and at that time, death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. So death, which is the creator of death itself, after death, death itself will die. It will not exist, because after death, one will be united with God. One will be united with the eternal providence. So with this, we end the poem. So thus, we come to the end of this beautiful poem by John Donne. I have tried to explain and analyze the poem as it is. The literal and denotative and connotative meaning of the poem I have done till here. In the next lecture, you will be more face to face with the questions that might come from your examination perspective. So in the next lecture, we will meet with the theme, structure and content part of the poem. Till then, take care.